Hello, I'm back again with another Marvel Legends review, and today I'm continuing my look at the recent Spider-Man themed wave, and I'm picking up with a character I'm not actually very familiar with at all. This is Hallows Eve. Now, I'm quite behind on my Spider-Man reading, and I'm not at all familiar with this character. I know absolutely nothing about Hallows Eve, so my judgment is really going to be based purely on the figure itself, and I have no expectations around it whatsoever, which can actually be a good thing. So if we start off by taking a look at the packaging, the first thing you'll probably notice is that there's actually a slightly different theme from some of the other cards in this wave, where we have the more Toy Biz centric or the Spider-Man animated series logo going on. This is new. We have seen it before in several Spider-Man releases in the past, but it has a very different logo and has a very different design. Now, for me personally, this isn't quite as striking as the animated series packaging. I might be slightly biased in that assessment. At the end of the day, there's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in that other packaging. This seems a little bit more basic. Obviously in the background we just have the spider web, which is absolutely fine. There is consistent colouring though. We can see a lot of purples here and darker shades of blue, which is, consistent with the other packaging. So, they're not too dissimilar. I just feel like this is lacking a little bit more in terms of personality. But we do have this nice artwork here, which I think is taken actually from a comic book featuring Hallows Eve. And all in all, this is still fairly presentable. It's not air-shattering, but it still looks quite nice if you decide to stick this on your wall. As it happens though, I happen to really quite like the reverse of the sleeve. We actually have a really striking image, a photo of the figure itself, which looks really cool, and behind it we actually see some more of that artwork, which is actually quite stylized and works really quite well. Again, the colours here are really complementary. I love the mix of the orange and the yellows and the purples and the blues. Just works really, really nicely. And we actually have a little bit of information here about the character. Now, it's not an awful lot for someone like me to go on, but I'm sure if you're a fan, this will appeal to you. Now, despite not knowing anything about the character, I have to say I actually really do like the design of this character. I like the costume and I like the colours. There's something about this that works really, really well. So I can't speak to the character in the comic books or the stories, but from a purely aesthetic point of view, it's actually quite striking. Looking at the head sculpt, I think they've done a fairly decent job from what I can tell looking at some covers out there featuring the character. This looks to be fairly faithful to what we see in those covers. I do like the detailing around the eyes. She's got actually quite a menacing grin here, which is quite interesting. I think this works well if she's a more menacing villain, which I think she is. But I think they've done a good job here. I like the hood as well. This is a separate piece. I feel like we might have seen this before. I'm not sure if it's been recycled, but this works quite well. Her cape at the top there, we can see the pumpkins, which is quite a nice touch, so I think that's a new piece. And all in all, I think this is well presented. I think my one criticism would be, in terms of the hair, they are exactly the same shade as the hood, and it would have been nice if they'd used, say, a darker plastic here, or indeed actually added some paint apps, which would have been nice to actually bring this a little bit more to life and just differentiate the hair from the hood a little bit more. In terms of the main body sculpt, obviously this has just been recycled. We've seen this on many other of the female figures from the Marvel Legends in recent years, but it's nicely presented. Nothing's actually sculpted in, which is a shame. It's obviously just all been painted in, that extra detail there, which is what they tend to do, which is a little bit disappointing, but I think it works perfectly well in this instance. As I said, I think the cape is bespoke to this character. I think this is a new sculpt, quote unquote. It's a bit straggled, it's more like a lengthy scarf really, and it's got some sort of tears at the bottom of it, which adds a little bit more visual interest, but again, sadly, no paint washes. Now, the satchel has definitely just been recycled from Green Goblins and Hobgoblins we've had in the past. It's a nice satchel, but I'm not convinced by it here. The scaling looks slightly off. It doesn't really work for a thinner framed character like this one, so that's a little bit disappointing. Now, when it comes to the feet, of course, we have seen these on many others, but this definitely struggles to bear the weight of the character. Positioning can be a little bit tricky, and she does have a tendency to want to fall over, so you're going to have to persevere if you want to put her in any kind of dynamic poses. Looking at the articulation then, she does have a ball joint at the top of the neck, so she can spin her head all the way around, but you're going to have a bit of resistance from that hood. She can't really nod it up and down either, which is disappointing. She does have ball joints in the shoulders though, so the arms will lift up and out. There is a complementary bicep swivel, and there's a double pin at the elbow, so fair play, that's pretty decent, and there is a pin swivel at the wrist as well, so of course the hand will rotate all the way around, then it will hinge forwards and backwards. Now, she's got the upper ab ball joint there, so she can spin from side to side, lean left and right, and bend forwards and backwards a little bit as well, so this is pretty decent. And then she has a ball joint in the hips, of course, the legs will kick out to the side, there's the thigh swivel there, the legs will kick forwards and backwards, and there's a double joint at the knee as well, so that lower leg will kick all the way back. And then we have the ankle rocker, so the foot will hinge forwards and backwards, but also rock from side to side. She actually doesn't fare too badly in the accessories department either, because she comes with an additional 2 pairs of hands, so open hands and closed fists, and 2 sets of masks. So between the 3 sets of hands she has in total, there's a number of different looks you can create in different poses that will be a little bit more dynamic and interesting, I suppose. Sadly, no alternate head sculpt, but I'm not sure if there is an unmasked version out there, if we even know who the character is, so I can't really talk too much about that. In terms of the masks, yeah, I'm not really sure of the significance of these. Apparently they explode, that's all I was able to glean from what was said on the back of the text, on the back of the box. But, you know, they look quite nice. We seem to have a Dracula head and a devil head. I'm not sure what she's supposed to do with these, but she's gripping them, and I've seen her holding them in comic book covers, so I'm guessing this is fairly accurate, and yeah, it seems to do the job. All in all, I'm going to give this figure 3 stars. This isn't a character I knew anything about, so I had no expectations whatsoever, as I said at the top of the video, but I do really like the visual of this figure. I have to say, I love the colour combinations, and I think she is actually visually quite striking, so I'm actually quite happy to have it on display with my other Spider-Man Rogues gallery, and I think she's quite fun and interesting. There's nothing particularly special about her, everything's pretty much recycled from what I can tell, and you know, Hasbro seems to have put in sort of bare minimum effort with this figure, but I still think it's quite nice, it's quite decent, but it's nothing special. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving the video a like. That kind of thing really does help the channel out, and it allows me to keep making more content. And if you're interested in seeing more content, remember to hit subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos coming soon.